The fog rolled into Havenwood like a shroud. It clung to the narrow streets and the rooftops of the old houses. The townsfolk, used to the damp embrace of the sea, still felt a chill. It was the same day a stranger stepped off the late-night train. He was tall and gaunt, his face hidden by a wide-brimmed hat. His eyes, when they caught the dim lamplight, seemed to gleam with an unnatural intensity. The stranger found a room at the Blackwood Inn, a rambling Victorian mansion perched on a hill overlooking the town. No one saw him come or go. He was a whisper in the fog, a shadow flitting across the periphery of their vision. But his arrival, silent and unheralded as it was, seemed to coincide with a change in the atmosphere of Havenwood. The air grew heavy, laden with a palpable sense of dread. The old clock tower in the town square, silent for years, began to chime at odd hours. Its deep, resonant tones echoed through the empty streets, each clang like a hammer blow against the stillness. Children, playing in the shadow of the old oak tree at the edge of town, claimed to hear whispers on the wind. Their laughter died in their throats, replaced by nervous glances over their shoulders and hurried steps towards home. The whispers grew stronger, more insistent. They seemed to emanate from the very walls of the town, from the depths of the fog itself. Some townsfolk, their faces drawn and pale, reported seeing flickering lights in the windows of the abandoned cannery on the outskirts of town. Others spoke of cold spots in their homes, of objects moving inexplicably, of a feeling of being watched. Then came the nightmares, vivid, terrifying visions that plagued the townsfolk's sleep. Each dream was different, yet strangely similar. They all featured the stranger, his face obscured, his eyes burning with an eerie light, and a sense of overwhelming dread, of some unknown terror lurking just beyond the realm of comprehension. The townsfolk of Havenwood, a hardy lot accustomed to the vagaries of the sea and the isolation of their coastal town, were shaken. The mundane rhythms of their lives, the ebb and flow of the tides, the coming and going of the fishing boats, were disrupted. Fear, like the fog, seeped into every corner of their lives. News of the strange occurrences in Havenwood reached the ears of Alex Carter, a journalist known for his sharp mind and a nose for the unusual. Intrigued, Alex arrived in Havenwood on a bleak, overcast morning. The town, shrouded in an oppressive silence, seemed to hold its breath, watching him with a mixture of suspicion and hope. Alex, a man of logic and reason, initially dismissed the stories as nothing more than mass hysteria. But as he spent time in Havenwood talking to the townsfolk, listening to their whispered fears and witnessing their haunted eyes, he began to doubt his own skepticism. The fear in Havenwood was palpable, a tangible entity that hung heavy in the air. Alex, a man who prided himself on his objectivity, found himself feeling a growing sense of unease. He couldn't shake off the feeling that something was terribly wrong in this quiet seaside town. Something sinister, something he couldn't explain. Driven by a mixture of professional curiosity and a growing sense of dread, Alex began to investigate. He spent hours poring over old newspapers and town records in the dimly lit archives of the Havenwood Historical Society. He interviewed the oldest residents, their faces etched with the passage of time, their memories a tapestry woven with fact and folklore. His persistence paid off. Deep in the archives, buried beneath layers of dust and forgotten history, Alex stumbled upon an article about a man named Victor Hale. Hale, a wealthy businessman, had been accused of a series of heinous crimes in Havenwood a century ago, but had disappeared before he could be brought to justice. The article, yellowed with age, painted a picture of a man consumed by greed and ambition, a man who would stop at nothing to get what he wanted. The more Alex learned about Victor Hale, the more he became convinced that the man's disappearance was more than just a cold case. He began to suspect that Hale's presence, or rather his memory, still lingered in Havenwood, a malevolent entity seeking something he had been denied in life. But what? And why now, after all these years?